Hello chess fans! Today I'm going to show you two games that I played at a recent tournament, and one of which I managed to use a very tricky weapon against the French to get a quick win. So let's look at that game first. So here I went for the move Queen E2. The idea is that after D5, usually black wants to take back with a pawn, but here they can't because their pawn would be pinned to their king. So here there's several moves. The most common move I would say is C5, but this sort of transposes to Sicilian, which a lot of French players don't want. So the French player move I think is Bishop E7, and this is also one of the best lines. Here I went for Knight F3, idea of developing a piece, D5, and here notice that if I take now, they can take with this way since they're unpinned. So I decided to go for E5, closing it up. And my whole idea with this setup is that this knight is just kind of bad. The bishop kind of takes the square on E7, there's no really outpost on H6, and it might even be risky if my bishop ever takes this. So here my opponent went C5, I went for G3, developing my bishop this way since it can't go this way. Knight C6, bishop G2, Queen C7, putting pressure on the pawn. I think this is reasonable. Here I castled, and here my opponent decided to go for Knight H6, so developing the knight. And they did this because I can't really take this right away. So now after D3, I am threatening to take it, so they pretty much have to go Knight F5. And here I noticed that they were kind of threatening to go either knight to here, so I decided to go for C3. And the idea is just to simply stop that, and also I might be looking forward to D4 in the future. And now here my opponent played a very strange move. So what I expected here, I expected my opponent to just castle, and I was planning to go for G4. And the idea is just to attack, and probably we would trade pieces here, and I'd advance my f-pawn. And we get a nice game that neither of us has ever seen before, and it's pretty attacking for both sides. But instead my opponent played H6. And that was one of the reasons I played this setup, because I knew from the first game my opponent probably liked to attack, and yeah, okay, my opponent probably thought they could get some sort of pawn storm here. Here I just continued naturally, I went for rook E1. And maybe here my opponent should just castle queenside, but it can also be dangerous because I can attack on the queenside, and my bishop would make more sense if they castle queenside. So instead they went for D4, which I think is a really big mistake after I play this move C4, because now you've sort of fixed the pawn structure, and my bishop here is now looking like an absolute monster, while my pawns help escort the bishop down the board. So here my bishop is very strong. My opponent went for G5, which I think is another mistake, because after G4, I pretty much locked the structure, there's no way to break it, and all the play is going to happen on the queenside now. Unless, of course, my opponent plays this Knight H4 move, which again is a very strange move considering the fact that your pawns are simply doubled for no reason. Obviously, my opponent probably should have gone here, but it's hard to play this move because where does the knight go in the future? Even if you ever get H5, I go H3, and after takes, you can never attack anything. Your bishop is terrible, my bishop's amazing, this pawn structure is probably going to be weak at some point, I'm probably going to play B4. It's just sort of suffering a slow fate. So here my opponent probably thought that after this, the G-file is open, maybe they can get some counterplay, but here I think they realized that their position was pretty dire. They played F6, I took, here I went Knight A3, I wanted to go for Knight B5, and yeah, sort of was a phantom threat because I didn't really want to go for Knight B5, I kind of just wanted to go Knight C2, but my opponent played A6, they kind of believed me. So I went Knight C2 looking for B4, here my opponent went E5, and yeah, this is the game over. Here you can't really open the center when, you know, there's this big pin here. Probably they should go bishop D7 and castle queenside, but even that I'm playing B4 here, and if they castle kingside, I mean, look at their kingside. So yeah, generally I just got a very nice position out of the opening, and I managed to convert it pretty well. So here after they played E5, I just took, and yeah, here they lose a piece by force after it takes here. Now here take a few seconds. There's like 10 ways to win the piece, but the simplest way is probably just to take here, and after it takes you could win the rook too, but they don't have to take that way. Most likely they would take with the pawn, and then you would trade queens. I did it a different way. I went for bishop f4. I played this move in like a second, so I didn't actually even see bishop takes c6 yet. Then I realized my opponent was thinking. I was like, oh wait, I had bishop takes c6. Here my opponent went bishop d7. I won a piece, and yeah, here I was up a piece. I'm not really gonna go over the rest of the game because I kind of forgot it. But yeah, I generally got a great position out of the opening, and I think this is a highly venomous weapon to check out. And if you don't know it, check out my tricky repertoire up there, I think. So yeah. Let's go into another game. So this next game, I actually was playing with the black pieces, and my opponent went for E4, and I decided to go for E5. So this was our first game. That French game was our second game, and in this game, I didn't really know my opponent's strength. Someone told me that he was around 2,000 online, which I was like, okay, that's not that threatening, but I still should probably take this game quite seriously. Knight f3, Knight c6, D4, E takes, Knight takes. And here I went for Knight f6. So we went for the 4 knights. We went for the Scotch. If he plays Knight c6, it'll be 4 knight Scotch. But he decided to take. And after takes, he went for bishop d3, which I actually was not really familiar with too much. Here I know the main line is either Knight c3, which would kind of transpose into some 4 knight Scots position, which is a little bit strange, or e5. And after here, they go for c4. Oh, sorry. After e5, you go queen e7 first, provoke queen e2, and now you go knight here. And we get a long theoretical line. It's about equal, but this is what I also knew. Instead of that, my opponent played bishop d3, and I wasn't too familiar with this move. here I went for d5. It just looks like the most natural move. And here I was kind of blitzing, but I didn't entirely know the position. I knew here the main move here was to take and then to castle. And I thought here that there was an important difference that black can get this bishop d6 move off, but actually no, I'm wrong, because after rook e1, bishop e6, he has bishop f5, which would put pressure on my structure. So yeah, here I would still have to go bishop e7, and after, like, I don't know, knight c3, here it's about equal. And yeah, but black is doing pretty well here because most white players are not playing ambitiously. So he decides to play ambitiously and look for e5. It doesn't really make sense to get rid of my doubled pawn, right? Here I went with knight g4, attacking the pawn, and I knew this was pretty bad. And here I knew the line after castles was to go bishop c5, and the idea is simply like that you're going to be threatening here in some positions, and you're also threatening this pawn somewhat. So maybe white should defend that with this move bishop f4. And here I knew a familiar idea to go g5, and if here h5. And I had this actually in one of my over the board games on my channel, which you can also check out. But my opponent instead went queen e2, which I'd never seen before. Here I went bishop c5, threatening the pawn. My opponent castle, and I went queen e7. And here I didn't really see a move from my opponent other than to go bishop f4. And here I played the move that I knew, g5. So I didn't think the addition of queen e7 and queen e2 did much. So here my opponent went bishop g3. I decided to go h5, threatening to trap the bishop. Again, I thought my opponent should have just probably just gone back and given up this pawn. And it's playable here for white, it seems, but black is doing decent here, and black is slightly better. Bishop g3, h5, h3. Here I went for h4, and okay, if takes, this would be like -10 because here there's checkmate being threatened. So he went bishop h2, takes, and here my opponent, I think, missed this bishop d4 move. He said he doesn't miss it, but he just thought he was lost. But I think probably it was a miss because I don't think you go for this bishop f4 line so quickly if you saw other things. So yeah, after h4 takes, I went bishop d4, threatening both pawns. Threatening here and here. My opponent went knight d2. I took on e5. He went back. I took here. Rook a1. I took because, okay, I can't do anything else. My opponent took. I went king f8, c4. I went bishop f6. I'm not really sure why I played bishop f6 because, yeah, I'm really not sure why I did this. I just didn't want knight f3 to come with an attack here, but I could have just gone bishop here later. And I was also kind of worried about him somehow having some discover check. But yeah, kind of a dumb move. Here he went rook fe1. I went king g7. Yeah, again, I'm not sure. I should have probably gone bishop a6, pin this here immediately, but I went king g7, rook e8, and now I went bishop a6. And after takes, my opponent went a4. I didn't really understand what this does at all. I went rook d8. My opponent went rook e3, and here I kind of got too greedy. I probably should take here, and after knight takes, I can win the two bishops. But I was worried that, okay, he has some imbalance. Maybe it's difficult, but yeah, okay, there's nothing here for white. I should have been completely winning. But instead I went g4, which threatens to move bishop g5. I was hoping he would take and that we could end this game quickly, but instead he took here, and after takes, I have takes here because he can't take because he's pinned. He took back, and yeah, here I'm up 2 pawns, and he actually just blundered. I'm not sure what he played in those moves because I remember he allowed my pawn to just run up the board. But yeah, those are 2 games from the recent tournament I played. If you guys want to see the rest of the games, I think I don't entirely remember them and I didn't record them. But these 2 games, at least, I kind of have pretty clear in my memory. So I know I was able to show them. So if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Check out my Tricky Repertoire series, and I'll see you guys in the next video.